Garage Politics. Garage Politics. No pedicure, no NPR. Nobody here drives a hybrid car. If the media makes you sick, Garage Politics.
That's all about there. From our cold dead hands here in the garage. Garage King's back. Ready for another week.
Bring it.
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you. We're glad to be back. It's always good to be here in the garage. So.
Sick man recording. Oh, no, he's not sick
Sick man
anymore.
recording. Well, I'm still kind of sick. The beauty is I've already warned Patriot tonight if I have to break away. If he sees me mute my mic and get up and walk away, it's because I'm going into one of my coughing fits. I had a upper respiratory infection. And the beauty is my doctor the day I called was like, oh, you're at the end of it. Bad news is you could end up coughing for like the next 2 weeks. I'm like, great. And I do every night up until about 3 a.m. So
yep.
Lack of sleep, little sleep deprivation going on. But hey, we're glad to be back here in the garage. It's been a long 2 weeks since we've been back here.
2 weeks. It's Yeah. So you know what? Let's just get business off the table up front,
okay.
right at the beginning,
okay.
right? So this will officially be our last show. Let's see.
Let's not leave the people hanging, dude.
Oh.
He means of the year.
Of the year. I'm sorry. Of the year.
For
of the year.
Pete's sake, don't
for
do that.
2022. Sorry.
My gosh.
Something struck me. I was
You
thinking
know,
about
our 5 viewers just had a heart attack. I swear to you. But we're going to remind everybody anyways, hit the wrong button, Buzz. Way
Yes.
to go. Yeah, hit that one. See, I'm a little rusty at the controls over
man.
here. So
It's okay.
Want to remind everybody to hop on over to www.garagepolitics.com. And if you're nostalgic, .net. All right. Head on over there. You can check us out. All of our past shows. There's links to that. Sound archives. Listen to some old shows if you really want to go back and hear the golden days of radio at Garage Politics.
Mm-hmm.
No, the biggest thing is head on over to our social media sites. The biggest one we're advocating for right now is Rumble. Head on over to Rumble, and once we get 100 followers, we're going to start going live. We'll be taking calls and everything else. But we're also on YouTube. You can check out our links on Facebook, and you can go to Twitter and see when we're in the garage. Usually it's Monday nights.
I have been made aware on Rumble and YouTube, both actually. Rumble in particular, though, because that's the one where we put and we connect on our website, that I'm putting the video up. And some of the viewers are letting me know that they're subscribed and they're not getting their notice until a week later. So they're getting, like if I had put one up last week, they would have gotten a notice yesterday, like the day before we do our next
Isn't
video.
that great?
So, and I'm understanding that there's also a delay going on with the YouTube as well. So it's there. I check it. It says it's up. So I don't know what's going on with that. I'm going to try to find out what's happening. But send me a note. If you're having the same issue, if it's not showing up, let me know, okay? Especially if you're subscribed and you're supposed to be getting a notice.
Yeah. Excellent.
Okay.
And I promise, Jeffrey, I won't lick my cup tonight.
No licking the cup. Yeah. Jeffrey sent us a note that said left equals frog liquor.
Yeah.
Right equals cup liquor.
Cup liquor. Buzz equals cup
Buzz
liquor.
equals cup
Buzz
liquor.
equals
Yeah.
cup liquor. So appreciate that comparison.
Very
Thanks
nice.
there, buddy.
Very
I appreciate
nice.
that.
It was good that he caught that. He's paying attention.
It was. Well, that lets us know that they're paying attention to even the smallest things. We've picked up a couple of viewers. I've actually got a couple texts and phone calls this week of people that were unaware that I was involved in a political podcast and decided, hey, want to check it out? How do I check it out? So I told them and actually applauded us and went, man, you sound like Rush Limbaugh. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that, but But no, we enjoy what we do. And, it's funny. Years and years ago when we started in the garage, Patriot over here has always been the one that's been into politics and into the knowledge of our Constitution and the inner workings of our government and everything like that. Me, no. I used to be one of those go with the stream flow type people. Mm-hmm. And he's the one that kept challenging me to say, hey, just like we do here on the garage all the time, dig in, dig deeper, study for yourself. Don't be brainwashed by the media and all the other mainstream flow crap. Actually take a little time to dig in, find out the truths. You can follow, believe, or do any of the stuff you want to do. Just be knowledgeable in it. Don't just go, because everybody says so.
Well, if you whatever you're going to believe, just make sure that you understand, number one, why you believe it, and number two, that you can support it, right? If you tell me you believe that all dogs are pink, well, prove it. Just show me that that's true. Yeah. If it's not true, then...
And we don't mean support like you people that mooch off of the government and, go out and have billions of children and expect the government to pay for you. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had to play that. That was terrible.
All right, so also...
I hit a camera. Did you see that with my foot? I made it move.
Also, so Buzz and I were having a discussion this last week while we were off, and he was sick. So what we're going to do is...
While I was sick.
Starting the first of the year...
Which consisted of Patriot going, so Buzz, and I went...
Starting...
And he'd go, so we... And all right, sorry.
Starting the first of the year, our next show after this one is going to be posted. So what we're going to do is when we talk about the dates, we're going to talk for now about the date that we post it, not the day we record it.
So January 9th.
January 9th on Monday.
Right. We're
going to start recording the show on Sundays.
Yes.
To give us a better window for recording. We've got that worked out on our schedule now.
Well, then it's up by the beginning of the week and everything.
Right.
And I just think that would be good. I mean, Patriot and I, unfortunately, we're so busy in our lives with the job. We've got little side hustle businesses going on and stuff,
and personal things that have to be taken care of.
And with the holidays coming up right now, that's why we're doing this as our last show for the 2022 year.
Family coming in, and
his family's coming over. We're going to be so inundated over these next 3 to 4 weeks. We don't feel it's fair to those of you that we keep promoting the show when you listen to us. Thanks for keep supporting us.
Yes,
we want to get back to a consistency to where every week. Short of my lung falling out again, where that show's going to be happening.
And that was the discussion, right? Was let's pick a day that we know we can get to, and we get the recording done for right now, because the goal here in the new year is to get ourselves to the point where we start going live. And once we go live, man, we got to be there.
Well, because the neat thing is, as always, Patriot and I are always looking at stuff on this show to make it better, to find out ways. So one of the things we're even looking into is the ability to. Well, let's say something like last week where I was sick. Because I'm the producer of the show, I run everything. I'd still be able to do that remotely. I just wouldn't have to get on the mic or anything. But then we wouldn't have to have a week with no Garage Politics. Right. Patriot would be able to go, but I'd be able to sit home from my home, even if I was sick, stay off camera, and just still run and have the show going. So those are all things we're looking into. Yep. We're already experimenting. I guess we were told we don't need new cameras. The cameras are pretty good.
But we may still play with our phones. I've got mounts where we can use the phones, and those are better quality cameras. I don't have to pay any extra money for that. Plus, apparently, there's some interesting features when you do that.
Yes, there's some neat features. So we're looking at ways to make it better already. Looking at ways to make it to where, whether we're traveling or not, we could do the show. Which... The little soundboard that I got that sits right here next to me where you can't see it. See, it's right down in here. That can go anywhere with us.
Yeah.
And it's neat. So we're always looking at ways that we can make sure that no matter what we do, of course, it drives our wives nuts because we're like, oh, well, if we go on a vacation, we could just do the show from the road. And they're like, no,
you're not.
No, you can't. And we're like, yeah, watch me. It's only 2 hours.
So first of the year. New schedule? Not really. I mean, you're still going to get it. Right now you're kind of getting it on Tuesday. Now you're going to get it on Monday. Better consistency. We want to be there every week to do the show. And the target is to go live. So
live from New York. Oh, no, wait.
As
sorry,
we get
wrong
closer
show.
to that point, we'll let you know. We'll say, hey, getting almost there. We're going to be looking at going live here soon, and then you'll know the schedule.
And don't forget subliminal Trump.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
All right.
That one
so we're going to do that. So this week, we're going to wrap up the year. This is the last of it.
Wrapping it up just like a Christmas gift you don't want.
And
I'm just kidding.
Let me say this. one more thing. I had a discussion with one of our viewers the other day with one of the boys, and Buzz and I have talked
That
about
covers
this
a
too.
broad range when you say from the
Well,
boys, 'cause you're
the twins.
okay. That narrows it
And
down.
so here we go. This is something I want to throw it out there. So if you're watching the show, obviously, which you are, you wouldn't hear me saying this.
Exactly.
Duh. There's a method to the madness here, right? This idea of the constitutional moment, the crawl through the Constitution, the whole bit. There is trust me, stick with me. If you feel like maybe I'm belaboring it, send me a note and say, dude, pick it up a little bit. Come on. Don't feel
bad. I
input.
do it to him all the time.
Input, right?
Just like I tell him there's certain topics. Quit plugging it. Quit giving these people attention.
Buzz gets on me about stuff because
I'm like, dude, what are you doing? That's the 13th show in a row you've mentioned them. Stop.
Okay, so I'm working on. Hey, I'm still getting.
That's why I
back into
produce,
things.
and the talent over here just goes, okay, whatever.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the target. Stick with us. Trust me. There's a method to the madness. We're going to get here, and this is going to get really interesting. Probably around Independence Day, I'm thinking.
Ooh,
it's
that
going
means you got to stick around for several months. I mean, we're talking 7 months away.
I mean, it's going to be interesting all the way through, but I'm saying there's going to be a decided alteration in topics and how the things get discussed and executed.
And come May, there may be a little bit of a hump, but we'll get over it. No, I'm just...
I'm sorry. I'm just
Stick with us till July of next year. It's okay.
Stuff going
After
on
that,
in
you
my
can
head.
drop off.
No, don't drop off. I'm thinking in my head. I'm sorry. It's spitballing, right? It's
I
just
gotta do
going
this to
crazy
him.
live.
I got to do this to him, folks. I got to give him a hard time. That's what younger brothers do.
That's the thing, man. That's the thing. So, no segments this week. We'll have new segments coming in
What
the
do you mean no
new
segments?
year, right?
There's segments.
Well,
It's just I don't have a
no
segment
Buzz
tonight.
segments.
I'm
Buzz.
just setting. I was afraid of doing a segment this week because all week long since last week, I get into talking at work and everything else, and all of a sudden the lung starts hacking, and I was afraid of being in the middle of a segment and going, hold on. So
I got you.
So with tonight, I did take the time to give you a little music.
Oh,
so
hey,
new
I
music
said something about music. Buzz delivers.
As here we go, we're going to go into our constitutional moment.
Yeah, a little different. I like it. Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, man, that's slick.
Almost kind of patriotic.
It's kind of majestic. I like it.
Yes,
Very good.
the eagle soars.
It feels
the
like
amber waves of grain.
it
begin
feels
to
like a
flow.
constitutional moment.
The flag in the background is waving. The people stand along the roads, waiting for Patriot to deliver this week's
I
constitutional.
don't think there's anybody standing
moments.
along the road waiting for me to do anything.
Yes.
Okay. So, wow, that was cool, dude.
All right. Sorry.
So, if you recall, those of you that were here a couple of weeks ago on
I was here a couple of weeks ago.
on the 28th, right? We did Article 1, Section 2. We did the first part of Clause 1, right?
We did.
And there were two parts to it. I divided it up. So let's do the second part, right? And I'll go through this as a reminder, right?
Okay.
Article 1, Section 2, Part 1, the House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states.
Right.
Problem solved. Part 2, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. You're like, holy cow, okay, what did he just say? So there was a debate at the Constitutional Convention. One of the items was over this issue when they were creating the legislature, setting up the rules. One of the discussions was over how to set up and allow the states, how they were going to allow everybody to select the representatives in the House. If you recall, at one point we had a discussion just very briefly, not when we were into Article 1, Section 2, but we talked previously about the idea that you had a bicameral legislature and you had equal representation in the Senate. And everybody, I think most of you already know this. This is not something I'm telling you new, right? Everybody gets 2 senators, every state, right? There's plenty of people out there in college right now, in high school and other places that have no clue what that is.
None.
But you all do. The folks listening and watching this show know. And then there was a lot of argument about the representatives, how that was going to get done, okay? And I thought it was interesting. It was worth making the notes on this because a lot of things are said about the Constitution, about the history of it. Is it still valid, and all of these things. And sometimes you say, well, they were tone deaf. They didn't get it. You had some slaveholders. You had people this, that, and the other. And there's a lot of arguments about how what was done was invalid. Well, let's talk about that for a second. So there was a commentary in here. I told you in the constitutional guide I've got where there's a commentary by Roger Clegg, C-L-E-G-G. Now, at the time that he made this commentary, he was general counsel for the Center for Equal Opportunity. And so these were some of the comments that were made there. The founders, or I'll note them, but the founders had debated whether, and Gouverneur Morris is the one that proposed this, actually. They debated whether, as he had proposed, if they should restrict the right to do this, the selection of these representatives, to freeholders. Now, freeholders is a term that meant free citizens, free men who owned property.
Right.
Right? Right. And or whether they should incorporate the state voting laws.
Okay.
Now, the decision ultimately was they were going to let the state voting laws be the regulation here. Okay.
Right.
Now, here's why. There was a comment made by James Wilson who said, quote, "It would be very hard and disagreeable for the same persons at the same time to vote for representatives in the state legislature and then be excluded from a vote for those in the national legislature." So this was in reference to the idea of allowing the freeholders to vote for the federal representatives. And they decided they'd let each state handle it, right? So whatever the state's laws were, because you remember it says the electors in each state here shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. So what the founders were saying was, however the states decide to elect their state legislature, you get the same number of electors here, all right? So the states decide, this is important, this distinction, the states decide who votes for the representatives, decides who votes. And we know from Article 1, well, we'll get to 4, but in Article 1, Section 4, it specifies that the state legislature chooses the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives, okay? But it also notes that Congress may, from time to time, make or alter such regulations as to the times, places, and manner. So the National Congress has a role in making changes to the state legislature's regulations regarding the times, places, and manners. Okay, they can step in and deal with that. However, what the National Congress cannot do is interfere with who gets to vote. That's an important distinction, all right? This authority, however, that the states have is superseded only where the Constitution forbids the denial of equal protection and exclusion of voters on specific grounds. Examples: the 15th Amendment, race, sex, and the 19th Amendment, failure to pay a poll tax or other tax, 24th Amendment, 18 or older age, 26th Amendment, right? So, yes, the states get to pick who, but the Constitution still reigns supreme. So even though the state is given the power, this is one of those perfect examples where you have a potential conflict, but it resolves it and says, you have this power to select who's going to do this voting, do the election, but only insofar as you do not run afoul of the law, the supreme law of the land, the Constitution. And since these amendments have become articles, part of the Constitution, okay, making those rules, the states cannot violate those. So they don't have absolute power. So, the National Congress gets to intervene on holding elections, where time, place, manner, this sort of thing, right? The who is the express purpose of Section 2, Article 1, Section 2. Now, there's some other interesting pieces. Alexander Hamilton and James Madison were clear that the two clauses, 2 and 4, were independent in this manner. In Federalist 60, Hamilton wrote, quote, "The qualifications of the persons who may choose or may be chosen are defined and fixed in the Constitution and are unalterable by the national legislature." Now, that's a very clear statement. That's what we just said, though, that Congress cannot interfere with who, except in the sense that the Constitution has been altered through amendment to impose certain rules that the state can't violate. But the Congress itself cannot intercede and interfere with who is chosen for the elections. In Federalist 52, Madison wrote, leaving Congress to grant the right of suffrage, quote, would have been improper. So they're making the statement they don't want the national Congress to make the decision about suffrage, about who's going to vote for these senators and representatives. Now, obviously, I have a clear purpose in making sure we identify this because if you will recall, just recently, the House was proposing this National Voter Bill of Rights, right? This whole thing where the National Congress was going to take over all these rules for the elections, right? And we already know, and one of the things we pointed out was the idea that all of those rules, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Arizona, all these states where we had these issues, those rules, there were state laws in place instituted by the state legislature. And you had secretaries of state, governors, state supreme courts, and other people involved with the election making rules about drop boxes and mail-in voting and other things that were not part of the law in that state. And we see right here that they're saying, the founders are saying through their discussion of it and what they put into the Constitution clearly says that is the purview of the state legislature. Okay? Now, Congress could enact a law modifying as to the times, places, and manner, right? Manner would include things like drop boxes and things of this nature. But outside of Congress stepping in and overriding that, which is obviously what Nancy wanted them to do, she wanted them to do it nationally for every state and completely wipe that away. Outside of Congress doing that, it's not up to the Secretary of State or the others. So I know I'm hammering that a little bit, but I thought that one was kind of important. So the Supreme Court has applied the equal protection of the 14th Amendment. Okay, I'll just give you some examples. You can go read these. I'm not going in depth into all of them. But Kramer v. Union Free School District, number 15. This was in 1969 where they said it was unconstitutional to limit school district elections to property holders or to those who had children enrolled in the district schools. In other words, if you're part of the district and you're paying taxes, right, you ought to be able to vote on this. Also upheld congressional regulation of federal elections over contrary state laws. So Oregon v. Mitchell in 1970, they upheld federal legislation, so this was Congress stepping in, that required the states to allow 18-year-olds to vote in federal elections. Now, that has since become codified with the 26th Amendment, but at the time it had not been ratified yet, okay? So Congress was stepping in and saying, no, you're not going to restrict this. There's an amendment pending right now. It's going to be ratified, so you have to allow this, right? Now, it was interesting, though, because one justice, Hugo Black, used Article 1, Section 4 as justification, right? But we've already noted Article 1, Section 4 allows them to step in as to time, places, and manner, not who, okay? The other four justices that voted to override this state regulation, they used the equal protection of the 14th and 15th Amendments to deal with it. So it was one of those deals where the court made the right decision, but you had at least one justice, Hugo Black, who was doing it based on the wrong reasoning. Right? That's not me saying that. That's constitutional scholars saying that. Then you had
don't get him wrong.
City of Bern v. Flores, 1997. Court ruled that Congress may not assert authority under Section 5 of the 14th Amendment to enforce the amendment by prohibiting states' actions not closely related to violations of the amendment. Now, what does that mean? Right? What they're saying is the court can't step in and prohibit the states from doing something based on Article 5, okay, of the 14th and 15th Amendment, right? Section 5, excuse me, the 14th Amendment, unless it is specifically for something that is violating the 14th Amendment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in other words, you can't just fling around the 14th Amendment or Section 5 or anything like it just because you say it's interfering with voting or causing... So that's another one that's worth remembering, because the court is very, very fond of precedent and stare decisis and all these other things. So you got to remember this kind of stuff and keep it in your back pocket. In Toshjian v. Republican Party of Connecticut, I thought this one was interesting. The court used the First Amendment to restrict the application of the Elector Qualifications Clause in primary elections. The Connecticut law required a closed primary conflicted with a Connecticut Republican Party rule that permitted independent voters to vote in Republican primaries for federal and statewide offices. The court said that the Connecticut law violated freedom of association. I got to admit to you, this one was a little more than I spent time getting into, but it was one of these deals where the court was saying, you can't restrict freedom of association here. The court was getting into stuff about, again, who gets to do this, who gets to vote, and that's the purview of the state legislature, right? So that's one of those items. We've mentioned some others in the past.
They did that one in 2000 also.
Yeah.
California, the Democratic Party versus Jones?
Something like
Jones?
that.
Something like that. Yeah.
So these are ones that we want to, at some point it may be worth discussion if it comes up in another issue, right? We've got those. Now, here's the funny part, right? This is the last of this, but the court struck down a blanket open primary law by California.
That's the one that I was talking about. Yep.
Now, this was Party v. Jones.
Yep.
All right.
That was
California Democratic
right?
Party v. Jones in 2000, right? They held that the implementation of party rules that establish different qualifications for voting in congressional elections than in elections for the more numerous House of the state legislature did not violate the elector qualifications of a clause, okay, or the 17th Amendment. Now, remember, what did we read on Article 1, Section 2, right? It said, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for the electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature, which would be the House, right? So the court rules and says, well, it didn't violate the elector qualifications clause. It says primaries are subject to these clauses. However, it was satisfied, and I quote, if all those qualified to participate in the selection of members of the more numerous branch of the state legislature are also qualified to participate in the election of senators and members of the House of Representatives. They say there is no need for perfect symmetry. Now, you remember I made a comment 2 or 3 weeks back, and I said, this is another one of those things to me that smacks of politicization, right? You've got a
and no
court,
one even knew that was a word.
You've got a court here that is stepping in and saying, well, we don't have to have perfect symmetry. Well, if it qualifies for this, it'll work for that. So they're saying they're going in there and making differentiations based on whether it's a primary or it's a national election, state, whatever it is. And John Paul Stevens and Antonin Scalia dissented on this, and they said, and I quote, the court nevertheless separates the federal voter qualifications from their state counterparts, inexplicably treating the mandatory, quote, shall have, unquote, language of the clauses as though it means only that the federal voters, quote, may but need not have, unquote, the qualifications of state voters. So Scalia and John Paul Stevens correctly look at it and say, what are you doing? You're now trying to divorce this process and treat these things, right? You're separating this and making it two different determinations, in other words. Anyway, so that's the end of Article 1, Section 2, all right? It's funny. If you look at that, it's two little sentences.
Yep.
And yet there was
you could go into that much detail.
So much information when you start looking at what other experts and people say about this. But the reason I go through it like that in any of these is I want all of us to look at it and be able to think about it. Like it's fascinating to me to hear what these guys, you read what they're writing about it and see how they make those decisions and those determinations, how they take it apart, and then you pull in the information from the Federalist Papers, from the founders' documents and letters and things that they've written and discussed these.
Right.
So, anyway, that's the constitutional moment this week. We will move next week to Article 1, Section 3.
And that's what gets him all fired up for his segment that's coming up in just a second when he gets on his soapbox.
Yeah. So we'll do the soapbox. But, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Cool.
Pretty cool.
Well, with that, I think we shouldn't even have a delay. We should just get right into it.
Just go right into it, dude.
New music, brother.
Yeah, man, I like the music. I'm digging it.
There we go.
Little attitude. I like the attitude. I like it. I like the attitude a lot. Very
Sweet.
good. Okay.
Good things.
So, if you recall, this goes back again to the discussion we were having. We talked about schools. We talked about education. We talked about the federal government. And I said, we were going to get into some other pieces of that, but we had to leave off. The notes were finished for that week, and I had a whole bunch. Remember, I had like 5 pages. Well, guess what? Now, after the constitutional moment is finished, I still have another 4 pages left, which obviously we will not get through all of it tonight. But we're going to do our best. I'm going to do my best. Some comments. These are some things that were on my mind when I started doing this segment. That if you look at the nation right now, folks, our people in this country, we are so heavily divided along political and social lines. There is so much division, balkanization. And you got the left demanding that we not mess with the border. We leave the border open, and they want more and more people coming in. And they, of course, they want to try to make it an issue of empathy and sympathy and helping other people out. And they want to completely ignore the rule of law, and they just want to keep bringing people in. And they know what they're doing. They're trying to pull people in and change the voting demographic. They want to try to have a permanent voter majority for the left so that they don't have to worry about losing elections against us. But there's more to it than that. Now, look, I know I avoided using language like we're as divided as we've ever been, because obviously that's not true. We had 150,000 Americans die in the Civil War because we were so divided that we actually had states seceding from the nation. So obviously we're not that divided yet. Thank God for that. It's not a revolutionary war. We're not at war with one another. We're not at that level. So obviously we're not that divided. But from a day-to-day interaction standpoint with our brothers and sisters in this country, we are just about as divided as I've seen in my lifetime that I can recall seeing. Now I can remember. I know that over the course of my lifetime, there have been events in localities where there has been division. I know that we're talking about a great amount of division back in the 60s and during the Civil Rights Movement, and a lot that was going on there as we went through the pains of straightening out and righting wrongs in this country and giving everyone their opportunity to take advantage of the promise of our nation. I get that. I'm not discounting that at all. So we're not even at that level. I don't want it to be like that. But we're heavily balkanized, okay? And we become more so, it seems, every day. If you watch the news, if you listen to other commentators, other shows, this is something I think I commented first couple of weeks we were doing the show, that you've got tons, and I don't have to name them all, but your Glenn Becks, your Andrew Wilkows, and your Sean Hannity's and everything, all doing pretty much the same thing for the most part. Basically running over the news going on right now, hammering it, talking about it. We're discussing the divisions and whether we should have them or not have them. Some of those are more antagonistic than others, but it's all just about. I feel like it's sort of an exacerbated news cycle where. Don't get me wrong. I would love to spend some time discussing a lot of current event issues, and eventually we will get to a point where we do more of some current events. But we're going to do it within the context of how we do it here. Right? Focusing on being Americans, number one, focusing on trying to bring us together on how can we solve problems, solve issues, what can we do to fulfill the vision that the founders had of being together as a people, as Americans. No matter, the melting pot concept works, folks. It's worked for centuries here. We're having a problem with it now because we've allowed politicians and political parties and outsiders and others to get in between us and to dictate to us what we're going to believe about our nation, what we're going to believe about one another, what we're going to believe about the people that are part of our society. They're injecting all kinds of very contentious issues, trying to stir things up, trying as hard as they can to make things difficult, and we'll get to some of that too. There's going to be some commentary on that. I believe, though, at this point that one of the reasons we're not at war is because we've still got plenty of people in this nation that are interested in keeping us together. Not Buzz and I mean, we are, but that's not due to us. I mean, we're new on the stage here. This is a new thing for us. And as we mentioned, we have 5 listeners. It's 40. There's 30 or 40 of us, but
5 just sounds so much.
Well, yeah, I know. It's a little hyperbole, a little self-deprecating humor. But we've got folks out there that are pushing, trying to get us to come together. And that's important, okay? Mm-hmm. And we need to stick to that because, in my estimation, that's God's will for this nation. Look, I firmly believe this country was founded on divine providence, by divine providence. I believe that the founders were inspired. I believe the things that they did were important. I believe that the Christian principles they held on to were a large part of the founding of this nation. And we have been, and I make no apologies to this for anybody, so don't even bother sending me nasty notes if you disagree with me. We have been, throughout the course of our history, the greatest nation on the face of this planet. The greatest force for truth and good and right, okay? Standing up for the little guy, standing up to tyrants, standing up against evil. This country has done it throughout its history.
And we've said repeatedly on the show over the years, there's proof. I mean, I recall even on one segment, Jack, back when we were doing it, and we had Jack with us doing all the fact-finding.
Yes.
Digging, finding out that a lot of our founding fathers, you talk, nowadays everyone wants to preach diversity and everything like that. Looking back, the diversity of them back and then on their stance on their beliefs.
Yep.
You had everything from Christians to atheists and everything else, but all of them came to the agreement that in order for this nation, this country, the United States of America, to be able to grow, prosper, and be unified,
yes,
they needed some kind of moral compass, a bearing, a documentation to take and lead this country to help it mold and become something greater than ever seen on the planet. Mm-hmm. And they all were in agreement, even those that were atheists, non-believers, not Christians, and Christians, all alike came together and said they saw nothing better than the Word of God.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
There will come a time here, too, because it's something that I have sort of we'll just call it a pet project. We're going to have a discussion, believe it or not, about diversity, but we're going to have a discussion about real diversity.
Yes.
We're going to talk about heroes of the Republic, heroes of the Constitution, heroes of the Revolutionary War from different ethnicities and backgrounds and religions, and because they're there. The problem is you don't hear about it. The school system, which is designed to cripple our children and cripple future generations, purposely avoids it. They don't teach it. They don't bother teaching it.
They don't teach much in our education system.
Because they want to be able to stand up and say, oh, look, the evil white people are not telling any of the truth. Yeah, well, the truth will be told. It gets told on other shows. Okay, it gets told by other hosts. I've heard it. I've seen it happen. Okay, and it gets told by other people like Thomas Sowell and others who get out there and teach it.
Have you ever noticed when it comes down to the truth, when someone's speaking the truth, how quick of a defense that those that really don't have any kind of factual backing are the first ones to go, no, you're just being a radical. No, you're just being a racist. No, you're being a bigot. No, that's the only triggered defense words they got when truth and facts are being stated. Hard facts that are out there for anybody to find, anybody to look up and see the truth. But no, they want to ignore that because they know once the blinders get ripped off, holy crud, it's a whole new world.
I'm gonna say something. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm not patting Buzz and I on the back. But I want you to use it as a yardstick, if you will. All right. I come here each week that we are here, that we've been here so far doing this show. You will notice I come here not with a diatribe and a whole host of opinions and views. Now, I've got my views and my opinions. I'm unashamed about providing them to you.
That's the beauty of all America.
However,
actually, all humans, everybody's got their own view.
why I waive these and talk about these notes. You notice I bring documentation. I bring information when I come here to talk to you. I back up what I'm telling you. I'm not just spewing information and going, well, you know, the economy is really bad, and Joe Biden's a horrible human being, and Democrats are terrible, and, you know, it's all because they're just leftists. I don't come here and do that, because that to me is, number one, it's counterproductive. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It's not useful. This, right? You know why? Because you may not like something I say. You may disagree with me. You know what I want you to do? Go pick the book up.
Yep.
Go pull the information for yourself. Read it.
Boom!
Because you know what? You can hate me all you want when it comes down to it. What you cannot do is deny the truth. So one of the things that we're going to do it. It's not going to be a special show. It's going to be something that happens every show, okay? Is when something like this comes up, I'm going to bring the facts. I'm going to bring the information. I'm going to read from the source and tell you this is what it says.
Patriots bringing the truth.
And after I pick up that piece, I'm going to do what I do with the Constitution. I'm going to say, and these scholars are here to tell you about it. Now, does that mean there aren't other scholars out there that have other views? No, it doesn't. Absolutely it doesn't. I'm certain that there are scholars on the left that are probably really interested in telling you that the Constitution is a living, breathing document. It's old and dusty. It's irrelevant, and we need to get rid of it. Okay?
Oh, sorry.
Now, you go from the Constitution to the constitutional scholars, and then you go back to the founders' words, and you see what they said. This is the entire core of original intent. The idea that if you really want to know what it says, why don't you look at what the people who wrote it said?
You know what struck me? You never think about it. Okay, the Constitution and the Bible and all these historical documents.
Yes.
Okay. And it just struck me that, oh my gosh, how much they want to change them to meet their needs. That's why somebody calls it a living, breathing document, because they think, well, it's meant to keep changing and evolving and aging like living, breathing human beings and organisms. And the Bible is, well, it was written in a long time ago. It doesn't apply to us.
Here's a great, and this is a slight sidetrack, but you know what? This is a perfect moment.
Leave it to Buzz. Here goes the sidetrack.
This is a perfect moment to say this. Notice right now, okay, and I'm asking you to be intellectually honest, and I want you to just take a step back to 2020. Okay? This is not an argument about the election itself, but I want you to think. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of these platforms.
Social outlets.
Right?
Yep.
Instagram, whatever you want to call it, okay? But mainly Facebook and Twitter and Google and YouTube, right?
Yes.
The left love them. Oh, they're so authoritative. Oh, thank goodness they're going to take care of misinformation and disinformation, and they're going to get rid of all those evil people that are telling the big lie.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
The left loved it. They loved them. Now, I kept making comments that, you know, anybody runs out on one of those platforms and throws out a platitude and starts screaming, Trump's lying about the election. He caused a major issue on January 6th. Okay, all of this, just running rampant. You notice when all of that was happening, they kept saying facts, but didn't want to show the video of January 6th. They kept telling facts, but they didn't want to show the videos of the drop boxes and the election locations and people. They kept saying, well, you couldn't get anything done in the court. Well, that's because the judges kept throwing it out without even hearing the arguments.
Yep.
Okay? So we're just going to leave that alone for a second, and we're going to focus on the fact that they just started issuing things and saying, we're going to silence this one, silence that one, can't talk here, can't talk there, can't say it. All right? Now, I've heard over the years, they say, well, if you don't like it, the way Twitter and Facebook handle it, then go get your own social media platform. Okay. Along comes Elon Musk, right? Who, by the way, lest we forget, is working on rocket ships to propel human beings to Mars to get us away from the imminent climate crisis. Not exactly a conservative here, folks.
No, not at all.
Okay? This is a guy who developed the electric car to save the planet from climate change.
Yes.
Okay? This guy also realizes,
and even with all that, I kind of like the guy. Actually, I really like.
Here's the thing: we say this all the time, right? Okay, the guy believes in climate change. Fine. He's using his own money to research and build rockets to take people to Mars.
Boom.
God bless him.
Yep.
Way to go, Elon. Go
to
for
me,
it. Not
American.
Okay. Now,
American. He can believe what he wants.
My single biggest complaint with Elon is, before he ran afoul of the leftist machine, he was taking all damn it.
Come on, get it out, man.
All the subsidies from the government for his electric car company.
Right.
But now, we've said this before, and I've talked about this. If I'm running a business and you're going to give me a bunch of money, okay, I'll take it. Give me the money.
I'll take it. Yeah.
Now, I say that. I was actually really proud when Ford, with the whole bailout on the car company, said, no, we don't want the money. Of course, then they turned around and took money for the electric car companies. But anyway.
It's all good.
So Elon, right, decides that in addition to climate change and all the other things, because he's a billionaire and he can believe whatever the hell he wants, like the rest of us, I'm poor and I can believe whatever the hell I want.
I was going to say,
that?
money has nothing to do with believing
Elon
whatever
decides that, hey, free speech is really important. And I don't think I like what I'm seeing going on over here.
There's what I like about the guy.
So he buys Twitter, right?
I love it.
The left loses their collective mind. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Wait. He said he wanted to make Twitter more free. Now, what do you hear in the mainstream media all the time, ever since this has transpired? Horrible people and misinformation and disinformation and hate speech and terrible things are coming back to Twitter. Because he believes in free speech. So we now know that the left firmly believes with all of their heart.
There's no such thing as free speech.
That free speech is hate speech.
We're going to call it one speech.
And
it's the left. That's it.
And I'm telling you right now, over and over again, you can read quotes and memes and things from all sorts of learned people throughout history. Even some of them that were not conservatives, not Christians, who say, ultimately, when you boil it all down to one simple concept, the idea is it is the speech you hate that must be protected. Guess what, folks? The speech that everybody agrees with, like in the current society, the idea that a man can be a woman and play women's sports and a woman can be a man and a woman who says she's a man can actually have a baby and not be called a woman but a birthing person and all this other stuff. See, that's the speech that the establishment at the moment agrees with. It needs no protection because all they're doing is cramming it down your throat in bulk, all right? It's the speech you disagree with that must be protected, hence the First Amendment. Now, the other thing I'm going to say, because I've had this argument for years with things like, the dung Virgin Mary and Piss Christ and the other things that the artists and everything have done over the years, free speech in the Constitution, contrary to our daily dialogue, really is meant to focus on political speech. That's its primary goal, is to protect political speech. Because let me tell you something. If you do not have free political speech, you do not have a free nation. If you are not free to criticize the government, to criticize politicians, to question elections, to question political movements, if you don't have that freedom, you do not have any freedom. You have zero freedom if you cannot question the government.
Wasn't it George Orwell that said if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. You can go find quote after quote after quote, okay? And we're not talking just George Orwell and Ayn Rand and others. We're talking about, look, some fairly leftist thinkers over the course of history have said basically the same thing, right? If you don't allow speech you disagree with, you're a tyrant. You don't believe in free speech.
Right.
That's a period, end of story right there. You either allow, and look, trust me, there are things people say when I was younger, before I fully understood, there were a lot of things people would say that made me very uncomfortable. I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. I'm not sure I like that idea. The truth is, folks, we're where we are right now. And I'm asking you, go read the news stories. Go look at the history. Go through and verify what I'm saying. Do it on your own. Go. If it comes to it and I have to, I'll bring the stuff. But I remember being a kid in Fort Lauderdale, growing up. I remember when the gay bars and the gay lifestyle began to come out, right? Mm-hmm. And there were all kinds of arguments. And what I remember hearing at the time was, we just want to be treated with the same respect and rights as every other human being. Now, that doesn't sound unreasonable, does it? And the truth is that our society permits that because you have a right to live by the dictates of your conscience. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like it, but you're entitled to live. And no one has a right to deprive you of life, liberty, or property without due process.
Right.
That means that what happened to Matthew Shepard was a crime. They murdered that young man.
Yep.
What has happened to others is a crime. Our system defends your right to life, liberty, and property. So this argument right now about all the terrible people that are coming for all of the hate that is happening because people spoke words. The truth is, folks, the only reason that there has been a possibility for the various lifestyles to take hold in our society is because we live in a free society that lets each and every individual live by the dictate. Now, if your religion involves sacrificing human beings and cutting out their beating hearts,
No,
not happening. Not a religion. That's called murder. We don't permit that. There are limitations to certain things when it comes to that. I admit it, okay? One of the limitations is not that you're not allowed to shout fire in a crowded theater, because if there is a fire, you are allowed to shout fire in a crowded theater.
Right.
Okay? But we're not going down that rabbit hole. The point is, freedom is messy. I've said this before, right? This is why I say freedom is messy, because you have to accept things you don't like. You have to accept Bernie Sanders preaching socialism on the floor, okay, of the Senate. You have to deal with that, right? You have to accept that idea that you're going to have socialists and communists and everything else.
Well, like we were saying, look up some of the quotes about liberty and freedom of speech and stuff like that.
Yes.
I was just coming across one, and I'm not sure who she is. I'm going to have to look. This Evelyn Beatrice Hall. Does that sound familiar?
Vaguely.
Vaguely. Okay. Made a quote, and I'm like, I kind of agree with it.
Okay.
If you think about it. I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.
Now, I have heard that quote over the years, did not know that it was...
That's a
that's
pretty
what it was.
cool quote, because
Yes.
it goes hand in hand with what we've been saying here on the show all along. You could believe what you want. You can support what you want.
That's right.
That's the beauty of America, the freedom of speech, because there's a lot of countries where you speak against, you're put to death.
Yes.
You have that right here in America, and it's due to our soldiers, and it's due to the Constitution, and it's due to those that fight for the freedoms here in America. But just because you have your view, quit trying to force it on everybody else. Find truth, not through what you watch on media, because there's no truth in media anymore. We were just talking about that.
You can't depend on the
I
media.
remember news anchors.
You can't depend on Fox News,
News
CNN, any of
anchors
them.
used to be news anchors. They tell you the news from around the world. I used to love watching every night. I still remember as a kid seeing Walter Cronkite giving the news in the evening. It was just the news.
Do you know what the difference was, Sean? Let me tell you something. Here's the deal. Think back when you and I were kids,
Yep.
news was 30 minutes at night.
Yep.
It was 30 minutes right after supper.
Now it's 24/7.
Okay? Now it's 24/7. Now
And
they
now
got to fill all that
now they
time
gotta
for
make
advertising.
a bunch of crap up.
Exactly. So now the 24-hour news cycle, they're forced commentary and everything else that goes in there with it. They're making news. They're not reporting it anymore. There's no reporting the news. That's not beneficial to them. They need to be creating narratives that drive viewership and increase their ability to generate revenue off their advertising.
Right.
That's what's going on there. So, look, before we run out of time and maybe we can run a couple minutes late just because this is the last show of the year, but and
You got
there's
2 minutes. No.
there's going to be
I'm just kidding.
I want to get more in depth on a couple of these things that I'm about to talk to you, because a couple of things that we're going to talk about in the new year. One of the things we're going to discuss is this idea that Buzz and I were just discussing about our faith as Christians in this country. And we're going to talk about some of the realities. We're going to talk about some of the writings of the founding fathers. We're going to it's been debunked by people like wall builders and other groups that have taken care of it. So I have plenty of information to go and dig into to talk about it on this platform. But it's something I want to do here as well, because anybody that comes here and listens, goes back and looks at any of these shows in the future when they start joining and listening into the show, I want it to be clear. Okay, there's no wishy-washy, I'm not sure aspect of this. This was founded as a Christian nation. You don't have to agree with that. You don't have to like it. It was. Okay, it's inescapable. Now they've whitewashed it nowadays, and they've tried to minimize it, and they've tried to shove it out of everything that we do. The truth is in the founders' words. And for the people who want to run around going, oh, they were all a bunch of deists. They weren't actually Christians, and they were all this, and they were all that, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. We're gonna go through unequivocal statements from various founders that make it perfectly clear what they believed. Okay, we're gonna get to that, and we're also gonna get to some of this other stuff about the media and the education system. There's more time. By the way, I'll let you know at the end of the show right before we finish up about the my promise to get more involved in politics after the first of the year, already underway. So. The irony, when we started talking about the division at the beginning of the show, the irony is that we're told regularly that this group or that group, is nothing but propagating hatred. They're just out there saying hateful things, they're telling people mean stuff, and they're not being nice, and they're sure not inclusive by new standards, right? And I believe Buzz, did I actually talk at one point about the difference between morals and mores? We did talk about that, right?
Vaguely. I think it was, well, I don't know if you talked in detail. It was pretty early on, but you just for a couple of seconds, you kind of.
What we have here in general, and this will be kind of the last thing that I go through, is these few points and then this little discussion. We'll once again not get into the welfare system because it requires a fair amount of discussion. What we've got going on in our society right now is a battle over morals versus mores, right? Those of you who remember me discussing it, you know the difference, or you know the difference on your own, and you don't require me to say anything about it. There is a difference between what is temporal, what goes on day to day, things that change time to time, things that are happening now, the mores of our society, and morality, which is immutable, unchangeable. Basically. Now, I heard somebody say the other day that morality is what everybody's willing to accept. No, I don't believe that. Any more than I believe that you as an individual are entitled to your own truth. You're not. You don't get your own truth. You have your own opinion. You cannot have your own facts. You can have your own views. You cannot have your own truth. There is a truth that is universal and unchangeable. There are things that are moral. And there are things that are immoral, and there are people who are amoral without morality, all right? And having said that, you get a lot of stuff right now in the thick of this argument over all the various LGBTQISP, WXYZAB community and everything else that goes on with it. And there's a never-ending flow of new letters and new designations and new thoughts and 3,000 different genders and all of this stuff that goes with it. And the truth is, these are nothing more than the flailings of a dying, amoral society that wants to try to claim that it is pertinent and important and valid and viable, and it needs to be, pay attention to me, look at me, look, I'm so important, I've got a nose ring, I've got 12 tattoos, and my hair is 5 different colors, look at me, I'm awesome, okay? Lizzo running around as big as a house and telling everybody that she's perfectly helpful and don't body shame me, okay? Now, I just hurt some people's feelings, I get it, all right? But we have got to stop doing this thing where we do this dance around everybody's feelings and emotions. The most pertinent thing I've heard in ages is the simple truth that facts don't care about your feelings. Buzz and I grew up in a world where we were told the world does not care about your feelings. It doesn't give a damn if you fall down and break your arm and lose your job.
Nope.
Okay?
And the funny thing is, everybody sees me now, and you can recall. I mean, back when I was a kid, I was a skinny little runt. I was bullied.
Yep.
I was picked on.
Yep.
I actually recall my 6th and 7th grade years walking home from school and the same 4 boys surrounding me and letting the littlest one, they called him Little George, and they'd say, Little George's going to hit you. And if you hit him back, we're all going to jump you. Yeah. And I got my butt kicked for years. Did I go in my life? No. Did I give in to it? No. What did I do? I let it strengthen me. I didn't let it define me. I look back on it. Now, Little George got a butt whooping when I got to high school, and I blew up because I became a big football player.
Yep.
But the bottom line was, it strengthened me, and it developed the character of who I am. I'm stronger. Words don't hurt me.
Yeah.
Someone making fun of me, that don't hurt me. It developed me and built character and made me a stronger individual. I'm sorry. Look, Do I approve of bullying? I'm going to stay right now. No.
No.
Absolutely not. I hate bullies. Bullies, to me, I dealt with them in my life. I think they all need a big punch in the lip. It'll stop them. But this whole movement of saying that oh, stop the bullying and this and that, I guarantee you the stuff that I went through when I was younger, nobody knows what true bullying is. Just because you get called a name or said that your pink hair makes you a freak or this, that, get over that.
There's, nowadays we're not even talking about bullies anymore.
No.
Now it's cyberbullying.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's because someone called. Oh, you're a freak.
Well,
bullied
if you
by a word.
Just like other stuff.
If
you take a step back for a second, let's step back and look at it for a second. You have an entire generation of basically spoiled, entitled little boys and girls. Now, I'm not discounting that people have tough lives, hard things going on, okay? But you got all these people running around with their iPhones and their Starbucks and their, whatever else, and so you're spoiled, entitled little children. You're looking for meaning, and you're disclaiming anything that your parents have told you about. You don't want your parents' experience. You don't want your parents' morality. You don't want your parents' views on the world because you want to do it on your own. Okay, fine. I applaud. Good. Self-initiative. Go for it. Now, you don't have the initiative to go ahead and get your stuff done to make yourself better. But what you want to do is you want to run along and say, silence is violence. But then at the same time, speech is hate. Okay, so silence is violence and speech is hate. I'm not sure how those two connect. Okay, but then anytime we disagree with anything you want to do, you pitch a fit. And I'm not just talking about 12-year-old kids. I'm talking about the 17, 18, 20. These kids want to run along and tell everybody that they're wrong. Now, I understand every generation rebels against their family and against the establishment and their parents, and you got to get out and do it on your own. I get it. But we've lost sight of individual responsibility and individuality and liberty and the ability for other people to say things. And now what they want to do is they want to tell everybody to shut up, don't talk unless we tell you it's okay to talk. Now they want to run everything. Mm-hmm. We know better than you. We're smarter than you. No, you're not. You're idiots. You're temporary idiots in most cases just because you haven't learned anything yet. You have no idea what the world's about. So you're an idiot right now. This
is why listen to your elders.
This is why you were given parents and elders.
Well, you think about it, because even in the Bible, think about how many times it says, "Be wise and listen to the wisdom of the elders."
Well, and we went through that.
And nowadays it's like, I don't need to listen to you. Yeah, you kind of do.
So, and I went through that again because I know we've talked about this before. This isn't the only time we've discussed that particular issue, but I went through that because this idea of hatred, this constant drumbeat of how that's hatred and that's racist and that's horrible and that's mean and this is uncaring and that's not inclusive enough and that's not diverse enough and that's everything for these people is a sin. It's not a real sin. It's a personal sin because something about it makes them uncomfortable. When you say to a young person, instead of whining about a job, you might consider maybe not getting as many tattoos on your face and maybe taking that stuff out of your skin that's puncturing your face and go in looking like a responsible stand-up person who really wants to have a job. How about following the rules? Now, the reason I got into that was, one of these favorite tropes is now, and it'll lead into other things as we keep going along through this, is to call conservatives in general, and Christians in particular, mean, evil, hurtful, uninclusive, all of this. We're terrible. We're full of hate speech. The fact that we disagree with homosexual marriage or the fact that we disagree with transgenders twerking in front of 3-year-old kids or 5-year-old kids makes us hateful. We're mean and hateful. So they tell us that Christianity is a bad thing, so now they're going after Christianity because if you notice, the reason I said earlier that I bring notes and I bring information and facts and back things up, everything that the left right now doesn't like is hate. It's hate speech, it's actual hate, it's division, it's meanness, all of these things, right? And I said earlier that it's our society and the nature of our free society that allowed all of this stuff to happen to begin with. Now, we can look at it now and say it's probably to our detriment. I'm not sure it was a good idea to allow some of this stuff to go on. And there's an argument to be made for some of that, right? But the truth is, if you look at it, again, if you're intellectually honest and you back up and you look at it, the truth is that Christianity, okay, that Christians in particular, conservatives in general, have a strong independent streak. You'll hear Christians say, and I'm one of them that will say, I'm not bowing a knee for anybody except Christ. I'll bow my knee for Christ. I'm not bowing it for Biden or Trump or any other politician, any world leader. I will not bow the knee. I understand fully, and a lot of people make a lot of really empty promises and threats and what have you. But it's really simple. My faith gives me the strength to say, you can take my life, you can take my possessions, okay, but I'm not bowing the knee for you. I won't do it. I will serve at my own pleasure. I will serve at my discretion because I love this republic. I will do as I've done in the past, and I will serve in the military. I will serve as a merchant marine, as I did, as a reservist. I will serve because I believe in it. I will not serve because you tell me I must. I will serve because my sense of honor, my sense of what is right and wrong that was handed to me by my parents and my ancestors tells me that. Buzz is the same exact way.
Yep.
And because of that, we're willing to lay down our lives.
I will die for my family. I will die for God. I will die for this country.
Every soldier, sailor, airman that has ever served in the military, be they male or female, who have taken that oath and decided to serve in the military. I wrote a thing about this one time on the old website. They've written a check up to and including their lifeblood for this nation.
Absolutely.
Now, that's not pity or empathy or anything else. That's just a fact. You've got millions of people in the course of the history of this nation who have said, I'll lay down my life for her. I'll do it. And they did that so that we could have freedom. And the way that we get repaid for that by the current generation is for them to run around and whine and bitch because they can't have purple hair, 12,000 tattoos, and a steel booger in their nose. Okay?
Or we release true criminals to get somebody that hates this country back from a foreign country who broke laws over there.
And so...
We won't even get started on that one, right?
So forgive me when you start running your mouth about Christianity and conservatives or the United States of America, and you start telling me about how we're not inclusive enough. I'm standing by peacefully, and I'm watching the left, bit by bit, chunk by chunk, tear down the greatest nation in the history of mankind.
Well, you know, the whole thing is they want to say that we're not inclusive, that they're... Go to another country. If you think America is so oppressive, if you think America is this weighed down, one-sided, unfair country, go to Iran. Go to Iraq, or excuse me, Iran, if we don't want to mispronounce that. Go to one of these third world countries and try to have your views. Try to live the way you do here in the U.S. Try to have the lifestyle you do here, your opinions and your whining attitudes in another country. Go see what's intolerable then. Go see what true oppression is then. Until you've gone to one of those other countries, shut up. Don't disgrace the men and women that put their lifeblood on the line, that bled, died for this country. Don't try to shame this country. If you don't like it, leave it.
The truth is, guys, and Buzz is right. I feel the same way about this. But the truth is, you get to speak your mind because you have freedom here.
Yep.
And I hear the leftists, they'll say, well, America's not the only place with freedom. No, you're right. We are the only place with a First Amendment that guarantees my God-given right to speak freely.
Boom.
In other countries, you have it taken away. Look, Canada, you can be arrested for saying the wrong thing in Canada. For telling the wrong joke in Canada, you can be arrested for that.
Yes, you can.
Okay?
Yes, you can.
The truth is, whatever you think of Christians and conservatives, we may try to evangelize you. We may come and say, have you accepted Christ as your Savior? We're entitled to do that. You can just say, no, and I don't want to talk about it. Okay, have a nice day.
Beautiful.
Okay? Yeah. But as reprehensible as we might find your lifestyle, you're entitled to live it.
Yep.
It's your choice. God gave you free will. Those rights you
Well, they
have, the
didn't want everybody with
Constitution,
drones.
the Constitution didn't give you rights.
Nope. God did.
The founders didn't give us rights. Those came from God. The Constitution enshrines protection of those rights.
Yep.
It specifies these are God-given rights. We got them from our Creator. That so that people like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders and others can't take them from us because they were not theirs to take.
Right.
They didn't give them. It's not theirs to take. Okay? We want, and where we went with education and all that, we want everybody educated. We don't want it withheld from anybody. I want them to know it all. I want them to know everything. This argument over CRT and the 1619 project and all this other stuff, that's all a facade. It is all nonsense to try and obscure the truth. And the truth is this country was meant to be great, meant to be unified, meant to be together and free for everyone.
Yep.
Okay? And I'll wrap it up right here with this statement. For Christmas, at this time of the year, it is worth remembering, okay, that our freedom, just like our rights, doesn't come from the Constitution or the founders or others who have fought and bled for this nation. Our freedom comes from the one person who died for everybody.
Yep.
No matter your race, no matter your religion, your creed, your national origin, no matter what.
Oh.
And that's what this season is about, and that's the way I'm going to choose to wrap up 2022
We're
in our last
celebrating
show.
Christmas.
Not we can
everything.
Disagree.
Yeah, that's
we could. You could celebrate another faith.
You
celebrate,
can.
It's irrelevant to me. I mean, it's not irrelevant, but that's fine. That's fine.
That's the beauty of it. The free will and the ability for you to choose what you want to worship. I think our football coach used to say before a game, he'd always look at us. Now, don't get us wrong. He's a man of God, but he would sit there and say, all right, before we start talking about this game, everybody take a knee, pray to whoever or whatever you want.
Yeah.
But, and that ties into what we're always saying now, because we're Christians. No, I'm not going to cram that down your throat. But this is the season that we celebrate my Savior, Jesus Christ. His name's right in the holiday, Christmas. So, but
and I know.
Yep.
Every holiday on the calendar at some point in history belonged to some pagan ritual. I got it.
That's okay.
I got it.
Well,
Whatever.
Get your hand off my side of the
But that's
screen.
not what we're celebrating. That's not what we're celebrating. The bottom line is it's what we choose to celebrate.
It is.
Right? It is. So look, we'll come back after the first of the year. We're going to have a whole new ball of energy, a whole new set of things to discuss. And sooner or later, I'll get through these pages and notes along with the other stuff that I'm adding. So,
and I'm going to go ahead and take over from here. We're going to do some shout outs as always, especially this time of the year. This is a rough time of the year for our military families.
Yep.
Because there's still a lot of our soldiers and our loved ones that are overseas, and they're actually out on assignments and everything. God bless each and every one of you. Our prayers every night, and a lot of people say we're praying for you. Guys, I every night, every morning I wake, I say prayers, and I mean what I say. If I'm praying for you, I'm praying for you, and I do. I say to God, be with all those families whose loved ones aren't with them right now. Surround them with, your angels and protect them and bring them back home to their loved ones. But we give a shout out to those, our first responders, everybody out there that's dealing with fires and putting their lives on the line, and our paramedics and our police officers. Man, God bless each and every one of you, your families.
Amen.
For what you do, it's hard sometimes to sit here and say it without breaking down and being emotional, because we love you guys. You guys are amazing for what you do. And with that, it's going to tie into my shout out for this week. So my shout out for this week is it's an organization that's actually very near and dear to me during my time as a realtor. Anytime I would sell a home out of my commission, I would make a donation to this foundation, and it's the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Yes.
And some of you know who they are and some of you don't, but this time of the year, it was just actually reported today. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation, basically, they officially paid off a mortgage for the fallen Bristol Police Sergeant Dustin DeMonte, who left behind a wife, 2 kids, and the wife was pregnant also, so a 3rd child on the way. Well, the Tunnels to Towers organization went and paid that mortgage off. So that during this devastating time of loss, he was actually ambushed and killed back on October 12th. The Tunnels to Towers organization paid off that. And especially during this time with everything they're dealing with, this is bound to be an emotional time for them to be able to say, hey, your mortgage is paid off. Here's something you don't have to worry about. God bless you guys for that. That Tunnel to Towers organization is awesome. If you don't know about it, go online, look them up, support them. Hey, even a little $20 donation. Everything you do helps that organization. They're a fantastic organization for first responders and military families of that have lost loved ones. Support them, guys. If you look for a good cause, support them. And last but not least, it is Christmas season. I'm going to challenge you all, as I always do. I like to challenge our listeners and our viewers to do something different. We've been doing something for years, and we're not looking for a pat on the back. I don't want it. Long before, pay it forward and all this other stuff. Every year we've done a thing we call Christmas Angel. So we get together, and the more the merrier. So you can do it with your friends. You can do it with your families. You could just get a group together, start a chain together or something. Everybody to agree to pitch in X dollar amount. Okay?
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want. Go someplace, whether it's a restaurant, a store, whatever it is. We usually go to a restaurant.
We try to go to smaller places.
Smaller
people that are
restaurant, not like a
working.
Big Denny's or something, but these people on a Christmas Eve are sitting there working, and you can tell the ones that you've usually got that one that stands out in a restaurant or something, and they're just, man, they're hustling it. They're doing everything they can to take care of you, and boy, you should see the disappointment on their face when they come, and here's 12 of us sitting at a table, and we go, yeah, we just coffee. And maybe a piece of pie or something. And they're thinking, oh man, big party. I really don't want to deal with this, but they do. And we take all of that money and we stuff it into a card. And that card says what the reason for the season is, which is Jesus Christ. And that tells them, in a time of darkness, always seek him. And we put that money that maybe it'll brighten their Christmas. And then we skedaddle out of there as quick as we can because we don't want them coming and recognize us. And it's someplace we never go to again.
Yeah.
So whether you do it in a small fashion or a big fashion or anything,
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. And if you've ever watched the movie Scrooged, okay,
Yeah.
one of my favorite scenes is at the end when Bill Murray, it catches him. It's a newer rendition of Charles Dickens' Scrooge, but when he says you start giving and you keep giving, he says at this time of the year, and he says, and you're going to do it and you're going to want it more. And it's true, folks. I keep saying be human. Go out. Give, and keep giving and continue it. Make it a habit in your life, because we may only get one chance to impact one life, and it may only be that one time that they interact with you that somebody needs something that drastically changes their life forever. So at this time of the season, this time of the year, at Christmas, try to see what you can do to touch somebody's life, and don't do it for self-gratification. Don't do it for a pat on the back. Don't do it for your people to go, oh, good job. Do it privately, but feel what it does to your heart. And try to change somebody's life. So with that, that's it for the 2022 year here on Garage Politics. We love all of our listeners. We love all of our first responders. We love everybody. God bless each and every one of you.
And always remember, there's no promise of tomorrow.
There's no promise of tomorrow. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we will see you all in the new year here
On Garage Politics.